You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona. With me always are my good friends.
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas.
I was almost with Arizona and not from Arizona, but whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, these things
Well,
happen.
I'm with Arizona Mike. You aren't.
That's right. You guys are with me. I'm not with
Yeah.
I guess I could be with myself, but well, welcome to this week's episode. We left off last episode talking about an airplane that we had received, right? That Jay was talking about, the Tuffwing. And
the Spec Wing.
Oh, the Spec Wing. Sorry, not
Yes.
the Tuffwing, but the Spec Wing. And we left off that episode without you having test flown it.
That's right.
So I think tonight we're going to talk a little bit, or today, whatever time it is. We always
Wherever you are, folks.
wherever you are today, it's either morning or night.
Whatever time it is for you and whatever day it is for you, it's that day. Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but first, a word from our sponsors.
"3D Air Adventures, adding fun to the RC hobby, one layer at a time."
Feeling weak and powerless? Sounds to me like you need A-Power batteries. When someone needs the best, they always choose the A-Team. A-Power batteries. Get on the web and get yours today.
All right, welcome back. All right, so we talked to you a little bit about the build last time, and you hadn't got a chance to fly it, but that has changed. Now,
Yes.
you
Yes,
have
I
had a
got
chance.
to fly it several times.
Well, good. All right, so the weather's been beautiful here, and the weather's been beautiful down there in Texas as well, from what I understand.
Yeah, a little windy, but it's been very nice days.
And you were able to get out to the field and
did.
test fly it, and give us your first impressions. What'd you think?
Okay, so this is going to go to AK Mike. Not that he's flown the plane, but remember when you first got your Tuffwing, the little one, the 24-inch one?
Yeah.
And the first time we went out to fly it, so
It was squirrely.
it was really squirrely, right?
It was.
And it was all over the place, and it took us a while to get it kind of dialed
Mostly,
in.
I thought it was me as a pilot.
Right, but it
turns out it really wasn't.
it-
I mean,
Well,
partly
it just
but-
it just was squirrely. Plus, we had getting the CG right, even though there wasn't.
and
a lot
that was
of
really what made it squirrely. Was the CG was just
Yeah.
off. We realized the battery wasn't heavy enough for it.
wasn't heavy enough, right? So I having remembered that, and even with the Tuffwing, not to say it was the 32-inch one, to say that it was similar, but still the first flight, when you first chuck that thing, you don't know which way it's going to go. You don't know if it's going to fly level or want to dot. What's that?
The normal Tuffwings?
Yeah, the normal Tuffwing.
I think that has everything to do with the person throwing it, though, don't it?
Well, and a little bit of the person throwing it. If if you had enough reflex set into it, if it's not, because right, because it may start diving to the ground. You're giving it full up, and then you know what I mean. Then you're trimming it until you can kind of figure it out where it's semi-flying straight. Land
This
it.
is your first flight. That's what
Right.
you're talking about.
You see where everything's kind of sitting against the fins, and you go, oh, okay. Make some manual changes to it so that you throw it the next time.
Right.
It's a lot closer. Then it's just a few clicks of trim as opposed to like the full limit of trim.
Like I need help. I need help. I need help.
Yes, I need help. I need help. I need help.
Our listeners don't ever go through that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just us.
Yeah,
So that was just a standard for the Tuffwing, the very first flight. It got better the more we've done, but usually that first flight usually needed two people, one guy to jump back there, hand on the trim to immediately start helping. Give me right, give me left, give me up, down, whatever.
Right.
So this time, unfortunately, I was out by myself, and I was like,
Yeah.
So you're of two minds during that whole process.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there going, after my previous experiences tell me that this thing is going to be a little unstable when I check it. and I'm not going to have anybody to help me, so I'm going to have to throw it, be on the sticks immediately, so.
Yeah. Full gas, right? Full throttle the whole time.
Launch it straight vertical. That ought to work.
So that's kind of what I did.
Huh.
I did one of those launches. Therefore, I could get my hands on the sticks, both sticks, after I chuck it. It's going up. You know what I mean? I should have a lot more time to figure out which way it's going, if it's up, down, or indifferent. So, I'm like, full throttle, half throttle. Once again, it doesn't have the same thrust as our 32s.
Yeah, it's got a little smaller motor, right?
Yeah, it's got a quad motor on it.
Right.
So I'm just like, so I kind of ran it full power, and I'm like, is my battery good? So I double check my battery, and I'm like, okay, the battery's fully charged. It's given all.
Like crashing the first flight.
Yeah, so I'm just like, oh, okay, this thing's pretty light, so everything should be okay. So I chuck it, whew. And I got back to it right almost immediately. I was able to get my hands on the controls, and it just climbed out. And if anything, I had too much reflex in there, and it was climbing at a 45 degree angle or so, 50, 55. And it was just climbing, and so I reduced the throttle, and then it just kind of leveled off, and it was just flying around perfect. It was a little windy too. So
I hate that when that happens. I mean, your heart doesn't panic, and
it still was pounding a little bit.
That's when I use my heavy thumbs and stuff.
I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, because the other thing I was wondering was, well, is the CG right?
Well, it was flying, so it must have been right.
Well, it was flying, but that doesn't mean if I slow down and then it stalls, that it's going to go into a deff spiral.
That's true, but you get some altitude to check that out, though, right?
So I was just getting the altitude. I was getting up there, but yeah, I got up to altitude. I kind of got back to like half the quarter throttle, and it was just putting along, no problem. Wasn't getting blown. It wasn't getting blown terribly. It was kind of gusting, but it wasn't getting blown around terribly. I was quite surprised.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there, and I did my trim. Corrected my trim, did some stuff, and the plane was just flying beautifully.
Now you set it up according to what the directions said, correct?
Well, the directions really didn't go into anything about
like throws and that kind of thing.
No.
You just kind of guesstimated?
Yeah, basically I grabbed the old Tuffwing, copied it into a new model, and just used that.
Okay. Well, so my question is how much trim did you need for the up and down? I mean, if it's
quite a bit. I did need a lot of down trim, because I put in what I normally put in for reflex for like the Tuffwing, and that was too much. That was way too much. So I went back and I set it neutrally. I put it at neutral. And I'd say just barely like 2 degrees of up trim or reflex, 2 to 3, and that seemed to be, pretty much spot on. Still, that was a little bit too much, but it only took a couple of clicks down, and it was flying, perfectly level. And it didn't seem to have any turning tendencies or anything like that. So I was quite pleased.
This one weighs considerably less than what flying your Tuffwing is very heavy, because it's solid. It's a big roll of tape, but this one obviously is not. And so did you notice that on the sticks that there was a difference?
Most notably, because I was able to fly at, like I said, half throttle to quarter throttle, and it had no problems with that.
Yeah, normally you're at least half to 3/4 on yours, or full if I'm flying.
Well, yeah. That's what that one's made to do. So
that's right.
No, so I was quite amazed that it was flying as stably as it was in the semi-gusting conditions on that first flight. And so what I had to conclude was that where ours, like I said, when I had the comparison of the two planes next to each other, the Tuffwing has a longer cord, and it's fatter. Where this one, and it's a short wing. Where the other one is 34 inches, it's the wings are longer, more slender, but they're a lot longer. And I'm just thinking that it makes a lot of sense to me, because the platform is very stable, and that makes sense because it's built for doing FPV.
Right.
So you want something that's going to be stable, that doesn't react to the wind.
and be able
where
to
the
down.
where the Tuffwing was more rough and tumble, smashing into each other,
right?
Type of plane. Put the biggest motor you can fit on the back of it, that type of thing.
Go
so,
fast.
Yeah. So yeah, it flew for the maiden. I didn't really have any issues. In fact, I went ahead. I got up to altitude. I tried to stall it, and I could not, which amazed me.
Okay, so normally these things, technically, a wing doesn't really stall, but it starts to wag. So
this one doesn't wag. It just, not like the other one does.
Yeah. So most of these, if you're set up and you have just the right amount of reflex, it'll just wag really. If you got it really slow, it wags, and if you get it wagging too much, it'll roll over and just kind of go into a spiral. But you could not get this one to do that at all.
No, this one was not doing that.
And
in fact, once I tried to stall it, I get it going, shut everything down. In fact, I was unable to turn the brake on. So it was the motor was definitely slowing it down. And I tried, kept the nose up, and it just would let the nose drop and it would just continue flying.
Now, did you try any like level fly to a higher, like a 45 degree, pull the power off and let it run out of energy? And it still kind of sunk?
Yeah. Now, there is that's not entirely true. So this was from low rates to medium rates.
Okay.
On how I have it normally set up on the Tuffwing. If I went to high rates, then it would go ahead and it would stall it. It would go ahead and stall out, or it might drop a wing.
Right, but that's because you had more control throw on the actual control surface.
But from medium to low, I could not get it to stall. It just would mush forward and continue flying, which was nice. Huh. And once again, it kind of makes sense to me, right? Because it's an FPV plane, so it's going to be designed.
You want to behave differently.
You want it to behave differently, and not where for us.
But I thought it was racing though, so I guess you do.
Right,
but you're racing like
FPV,
that, right?
FPV racing,
Right.
So you need a platform that's still stable. You can go fast or you can go whatever, but you don't want the plane if because it's very hard to gauge your speed, right? So if you're slowing down to go through a corner, you don't want it to
just roll off into a death spot.
Roll off one side because you're never going to recover that because it's really hard since you're not looking at it. It's first person view. So yeah,
and that's troublesome watching yourself hit the ground. I don't like that at all.
You're down there reaching for the yellow handle.
The ejection handle's not on the park bench, unfortunately. Well, that's exciting though, that you were able to get it. The maiden the very first time to get out there and nothing major happened. And you said just a few adjustments when you brought it back down, right?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
There were just a few adjustments when you brought it back down. I mean, you went out.
Oh yeah.
Well, you just brought it back, and there was just only
I made mechanical adjustments, and then after that, it just one or two clicks, and then it was flying great.
Wow.
So that really impressed me. Just compared to the old ones, that was very nice.
So I like that. Third launches or fourth, however many launches you've done since then were a little bit less vertical and more just a normal launch.
Oh yeah, they were just more normal launches, and the plane just flies straight normal and just climbs out, and it's easy peasy. So you could you don't have to. I usually like to grab it by the nose, when I like to throw it.
Yeah, over your shoulder.
But you can definitely do a side launch pretty easily because you don't need a whole bunch of speed. Like with mine, you need to have a bit of speed,
right? And
that's why I launch it like that because I can give it a good hefty humph. This one, you can give it a dainty toss and off she wafts.
This one's a lot like my AK Mike's, right? Because his was really light and a little smaller than ours, I think. Didn't you have the 28 version?
No, he had a 24 inch.
24. Yeah, 24. So it was a little bit lighter because I remember flying his up in Alaska and it was just like, he just kind of threw it and it just caught the wind and kind of went.
Right. Well, once we figured everything out for the CG and for the batteries and stuff, then oh yeah.
Yeah, that thing's a lot better, right? Yeah. I mean, it really was the CG was the biggest issue here. As soon as I put I think I put a big old washer,
washer
a
in there,
1/4-inch washer in there because the batteries were just so light. They expected a 1300, I think, and I had like 1,000s, and they just weren't, gram for gram, they just weren't heavy enough. And so we just put a big old washer in there, and then what's that?
We used the 2200s.
No, well, not talking about my 24-inch only took the 1300. It wouldn't take a 2200. It's too small.
Right.
And so I only had 1,000s that I was using, 3-cell 1,000s, and so we ended up having to basically put a washer in there to make it work. I did have one or two 1300s, and it was like, hey, it flies fine. It was flying fine, and then it's not flying fine anymore. It's like, what's going on? And then I realized, oh wait, I'm using this lighter battery. And it makes a big difference, evidently. I mean, who would have figured?
Yeah, who'd have thunk?
Who'd have thunk it?
So what were your other impressions? Did you, now that you've kind of flown it, is it fun? Is it exciting? Did you get it to do anything? Because when I talked to you, it just maidened it, and you were telling me you didn't do anything crazy because you didn't want to eject the battery and wind up.
Right. So I didn't go, totally. It definitely rolled very nice. Very actual rolls. So that part was very nice. It didn't have a tendency to pull one way or the other. Sometimes they get a little wonky with the elevons. Once they get old, sometimes they just start doing that.
Loop.
Yeah, they do that wide augering. Wow. When you try to do things, this one's very actual as it's rolling. Axial. Thank you. So, I didn't get too crazy with it because ever since you've chucked my battery out of the Tuffwing,
I don't know what you're talking about.
5 years ago or 4 years ago, whenever it was, when we were flying over there by Walmart.
Yeah, that's right.
You took the battery out and then it came wafting down. I didn't want to do anything hard because this one, it uses, it's using Velcro to hold the latch down. And I made sure that I have it going against it's not sitting on the laminate. I have it glued to the actual EPP, so it should hold better. But I just don't trust it, right? So I didn't want to get hard. Yeah, I do have a bit of trust issues, so I did not want to fling out the battery, doing anything super crazy. So I didn't go nuts on it. I did so overall the plane flies great, flies nice and stable. On a 3-cell, it buzzes around, I don't know, maybe about 80 miles an hour. Unfortunately, like I said, I had a problem with I have an E-flite 40 speed controller in it.
Almost had
the speed controller inside of it, and unfortunately, I can't turn the brake off or turn the brake on. Excuse me. And so since I can't turn the brake on, it's constantly spinning. So I'm coming in and I'm trying to land it, and I get it as slow as I can get it, and I'm trying to flare it so it's just so I can just pop it on the ground, and and I'm like, oh, don't break the prop, don't break the prop. Oh, didn't break the prop. So today I wanted to fly it on 4S because it can fly on either 3S or 4S on the same setup. So I got out there and tried it on 4S, and let's just say 4S makes everything better.
Oh, of course it does.
So, like I said, 3S, it cruises around nice. I'm used to ours. So when you that vertical punch that we get out of our Tuffwing, you don't get that out of the Spec Wing.
Yeah, but that's because of that motor.
Well,
I'm pretty sure I don't know what the gram for gram weight change is, but if you switched it for the 2200 that we use,
I would just looking at them, the two motors, I'd say it's half the weight of the other one.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh, yeah. Crap. It's freaking small.
But the same, was it the same winding and specs? Like it was a 20? No. What was ours? A 28?
22.
27.
Well, yeah, 20 depends what you got. I think mine has the 2200.
Yeah,
because I ran a bigger prop.
2700 kV.
Yeah, 2700.
6.6 prop. So, and you're running what?
Yeah
5.5 prop.
A 5.5, and so you should have a higher kV then.
It's 32 in it, Jay.
It's 34-inch wingspan. It's
no, it's a 3200 kV, isn't it?
No, it's not. Hold on, I'll tell you right here. Where are the specs? It is. I have a 6x4 prop on there. Where's the stupid? Okay, the motor is a T motor. It's a T motor AT2310.
Oh,
It's 2300.
So
it's
2300
less KV with a smaller prop.
with a bigger prop.
Oh,
It,
you're
it
running
runs a 6.4. It runs a 6.4 prop on it.
Yeah, I'm running a 6.6.
No, we run a 5.5, Mike.
Mm,
5x5 is what we run on the Tuffwing.
I run 7 on mine.
no.
Yes,
Okay. Your Tuffwing's sitting right there. Go get it.
I know it says 5.5. It's 5.5. I don't have to go get it because I got a whole bunch of the props right here.
He's going to look at it and go, oh, this is a 6.6 prop.
Look, here are all the props that you bought for me. 5x5.
Oh, it's a 5x5 prop? Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
All right. Well, then that does.
Are you
make
guys
sense
done?
then. Yes. We are.
Yes, we are.
Like an old
Sorry.
married couple.
But yeah, so definitely 4S makes everything better. It definitely wakes it up a lot more. It makes it a little more livelier. For me, it was more like flying the old Tuffwing, so I like that a lot more. But for like what it's supposed to be used for being FPV flying, I think that the having the 3S set up like it is, I think it would be fine because it's stable enough that you can get down low and slow and be whipping through the trees or doing whatever with that. It would be perfectly fine. So, but unfortunately, the way I configured or built this one is without the FPV nose. We got the solid nose because that's what Scott had ordered originally.
Does that change the CG or does it make it lighter in the nose? Did you have to add any weight or anything?
No, I didn't have to add any weight. So
the nose just compensated for the FPV stuff.
I'd say no. Because so when I don't have the wing here in front of me, but the way you're supposed to configure this is right out. You have the motor, then you have the motor mount, and then you have the bay. And so the way it normally works, there's a hole in the motor mount on the top of the motor mount. That's where the speed controller is supposed to go. Right there. And then you put the zip tie on top of it and hold it down that way, and it sits in the Airstream. All right. And then
it uses the Airstream to cool it then.
To cool it.
Yeah.
And then when you go first into the bay, that's where all the stuff for your receivers for your video gear is supposed to go.
Right.
In the first base is all that stuff. Right. And then your battery and then the camera goes in the nose. So that compensates a little bit for the stuff. So I moved the speed controller into that bay instead of having it sit out because normally they want you to have a quad speed controller, on this thing.
Right.
Which is smaller and lighter.
Yeah.
I didn't want that because I wanted a brake.
Oh, right.
I like having a brake. So I wanted an airplane one. So those are bigger. And, I was like, okay, I don't need to have that big old thing hanging out in the wind. Let me put it in the bay. And it worked out perfect. It was able to move the weight forward, and everything balanced out. So since I don't have the extra 20 grams or so for the camera stuff
right
up in the nose, it just all worked out. So
wow,
cool.
That's cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you like it then?
I do. I like it, but I still have to say that's my favorite. Oops.
Yeah, your go-to.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, each wing is going to fly. You like flying Zaggies, and
Oh yeah, no,
Zaggies
without a doubt.
are fun, but they're little floaters. They're not
Right.
speed demons, and the Tuffwing was one of those things. It's got some history to it, and I love mine too. I've got 2 of them because they're just so much fun. So
I know I smile every time I fly mine.
oh yeah, I mean it's just hard not to because it's just I love the sound it makes when it comes down. I love flying over the Jay's head when it's and he's got his back turned. But
Turning it on, really.
yeah, just it's got that.
Pouring on the coals over the top, yeah.
Mhm.
There you go.
I love the vertical and the tumble and all that kind of good stuff. It's really fun to do.
Jay, you probably remember that valley we used to fly in Alaska. One of my favorite things about that spot was the echo.
Yeah.
you would zip from left to right or right to left through the field, and you'd be like, it's like, wow, there's 2 of them. It was really pretty cool, actually. And then if you were down a ways, it would be like, you'd hear this, it's like, where is that thing? And I knew it was because I was flying, and people were like looking around because it was just echoing off of everything. It's like, where is that thing? And then
where was the point where the 3 of us went and flew, where we did all that ridge soaring stuff?
Oh, that was at
the motorcycle park near the airport.
Yeah.
That
was fun.
I liked that place because you could go down towards the water. So you were standing on how far was that? I mean, that was
it must have been a couple 100 feet.
Oh,
easy.
Yeah, it's a big bluff.
Yeah, it's
easy.
a huge bluff, and to fly down to the water and then just come zipping underneath. I mean, that thing is way below you, and then just
come up the side, hoping you don't hit the side, because you're never going down there to get it, or if you are, it's going to be a 2-hour walk.
You climb down and climb back up
with a saltwater filled.
That's it, and and hopefully the tide was out at the time. You'd be swimming.
I remember a couple of times with having engine outs. We'd be flying around, and all of a sudden it'd be, oh no, do I still have control? Okay, I got control. Guess there's something wrong with the ESC. I hope it makes it back.
Well, that was fun, and yours just floated around, man. I remember flying up there. It would just hit that ridge, that wind, and just kind of just hang. And then Jay and I flew ours in New Mexico. We've told that story more than once, but we ridge scored on the dam before the cops chased us away. But well, good. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to flying it myself. I'd like to get my hands on it and see.
Well, hopefully we can get Brian on the show. He's the guy that made these. I've been trying to get hold of him, but we just keep missing each other. I mean, like I said, my buddy Scott has talked to him several times. Right. Told him about the show and everything, and he sounds interested. So hopefully, hey,
well, Brian,
if you're listening, give us a call.
Yep, give us a call 830-444-4943, or jump on our parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know because we sure enjoy flying your products. So that's kind of cool.
Heck yeah.
Speaking of products, I think another one showed up in your front door.
What's that?
What?
Did you get another product that showed up at your front door? Did you get something else?
I don't know. Can you give me a hint?
Did you start vaping, Jay?
No.
I thought you got a shake and bake airplane where you shake the box and it falls together. Did you?
Oh no. Well, sorta. So once again, that's due to Scott, my neighbor.
Right.
He just got a new glider, which I figured we'd talk about another time because it's quite remarkable. And it truly was. He let me put it together for. I think this is one of these that's going to be a pretty good relationship, right? He gets a plane and he gets put together because we need something to talk about on the show, right? So
this is a little reverse from Tim, right?
Yeah.
Tim will put it together and give them to you to fly,
right?
Well, that's cool. We can always talk about that another time. But you were having some issues. I think you were asking us this week about some of the Spektrum programs that.
Right. Well, it all came up from the Spec Wing, right? So one of the things that I got with when Scott gave me the plane, he gave me the motor and escape ESC combo. Plus, he got me a receiver, and the receiver's AR620, I do believe. So it's a brand new antennaless receiver. And supposedly it can do all sorts of mysterious things.
Yeah.
So, so it has some telemetry capabilities, and supposedly with the E-Flight speed controller, it was able to talk to the receiver. So I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. So I was looking up some stuff on what I had to do to configure this all. So I got on my radio. I have a DX9. And so normally if you have some sort of something that has telemetry, there's a little button there, or a menu, and it auto configs it, right? It goes out, searches for whatever modules are out there and, brings it up. And when I did that, got a big fat nothing. And I'm like, okay, I may have to figure this out, what's going on. And so as I started delving into this and looking at the YouTubes, trying to figure this thing out, I just realized that I guess living here in Texas after moving down here, I've definitely been in a little bubble. And there's a whole bunch of products that have popped up, since then, that they're calling it smart technology that allows everything from the batteries to a bunch of the receivers, upgrades for the radios that are allowing them to talk a lot more, that the receivers are coming with more stuff in them from variometers to telling you what the current's doing, what the capacity's doing, how many times you charge the battery, yada 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 yada. If you have the smart technology batteries, by the way.
Right.
So I kind of delved in it, and unfortunately, I didn't get to play with it per se because I still have to update my radio. Right. And I have to update the receiver. And so to update the receiver, you need, what would be a good word for that? A gadget, a contraption.
A cable or a box.
Basically, it's a new cable. It's basically a USB to, not a serial port, but USB to, servo end connector thingamabob. So I don't have one of those. So unfortunately.
So this is, and it's kind of funny that you were somewhat unaware of it. I think I've talked about it before, but this is not new technology. It's been out for a little while, but the Spektrum group from eFlight Hobbies has come out with their Spektrum line of smart batteries, smart ESCs, and smart receivers. And the receivers for the park flying, or what they call sport flying, has continued to get smaller and smaller and become antennaless, because the 2.4 gigahertz signals they can actually transmit internally. The problem with that is that a lot of those may have interference if they're around carbon fiber, metal, any of those type things.
Right.
And so they allow, a lot of the Spektrum receivers now allow you to plug in satellite receivers and stretch those out. And they sell cables that can be, 10 to 12, 15, 18 inches. And you can put these little satellite receivers all over your airplane and still have, just this little, I would say it's no bigger than a postage stamp. Those of you that have kind of used them or are familiar with them, have seen them. And it debuted, I guess, 2 years ago. That's, this is probably why it didn't hit your radar right away, Jay, because you missed one of the Arizona Electric Festivals.
Oh, that's right. That's one of my mom had, her surgery.
Your mom had heart surgery. Tim Hanstein from Northwest RC actually brought some down and put them in the big airplane. He had a big 120-inch. He put one of those sport receivers in there, and somebody asked him, how far would that go? So leave it to Tim. He just took off and flew that thing because it was big, so he could fly it really far away. And he got it to where you almost couldn't see that 120 inches anymore. And he was still, I mean, of course, he owns a company, so he can afford to throw those airplanes away if he wants. But, he tested it, and he was flying low to the ground and high and rolling it. Now, I will tell you, he had about 5 satellite receivers on that thing, but he did it with the sport receivers. So
I think I was thinking we probably should get like one of those quad controllers for Big Mike and put it in his 3D plane, so that when it gets flying way past where we can see it anymore, he can just like return to home.
Oh, there you go.
Just come flying back this way.
Back. Yeah, he's actually gotten much better at it.
No, I know. I'm teasing.
Panicking thing, I think, has got taken hold.
Well, I mean, it's a tough nut to crack for a lot of people.
Yeah, that is true. So they've come out with these antennaless, small postage stamp style, and they're able to pack more and more stuff in it. And so, as a result, telemetry was one of those things that the Lemon guys, the Lemon receiver guys, have come out with. A couple other companies have, and so Spektrum decided, hey, we should do the same thing. So they jumped onto the ESCs, made it a smart technology, so where the battery contains information that can send through the ESC, and then the ESC will once again talk to the receiver, and the receiver will transmit all that in the form of telemetry.
And I got a chance to see one of the batteries because I had never, because once again, Scott had gotten some of the smart batteries, right?
Mhm.
And so he was like, yeah, I got these smart batteries, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what's a smart battery? And I thought he was just talking about the balance plug connector, being the smart part. But I didn't realize, because I even went on the website and I looked at it and I'm just like, okay, I don't see what's the difference is.
Right.
But I didn't see that there was a third wire. I didn't see the third wire.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's a little thin wire, because they were showing the regular EX60 type connector. And I'm like, what's the big difference? But there's a little hole in the middle, and that's where the third wire goes.
Correct. Yeah.
That's where all the information for the battery's going through itself. And so after I saw that, and then I kind of looked at what information's coming across, or the part that I thought was, I think it's cool and neat and everything. I don't know if it's for everybody. Because you have to have their charger, and
it's proprietary. You have to have
right, which is fine, right? I have no problems with that. So let's just take you two guys. I would say for you, AZ Mike, you wouldn't get this system.
Why not?
Okay, not because you're not smart enough. Well,
I don't know. Wow, not be smart enough.
No, it's because
you guys aren't done yet.
I've actually seen it work.
Right? No, it's because when you go and you're flying, how many big batteries of 5,000 milliamp 6 cells do you go through and charge up at a time when you're flying?
Oh, I have probably 12 or.
Yeah, but how many are you cycling through at a time when you're doing
like
it?
eight
at a time.
Right, 8 at a time.
Right.
Well, the biggest charger they have is 2, being able to charge 2 batteries at a time, and that's barely at 8C.
Yeah, it takes
split between the two of them, right? So, that's, you'd be laughing like, whoa, I don't have all day to charge batteries.
Right.
Who has time for that?
Right.
Now, I would think that AK Mike might go for this setup for a couple of reasons. He's not having when he flies, he's not normally charging 8 batteries at a time, so charging 2 batteries at a time at the field or doing whatever probably would be fine. Or when he got back home would be fine. 2, he's the kind of guy that would really get into the information that you'd be able to get from the batteries. Now, I think you would be too, but the part that I thought was interesting to me anyway was just, when was the last time you charged the battery? The battery can do its own self-discharge. That part I thought was kind of cool.
Right.
It tells you everything about the battery, the last time you charged it, how much you charged it, if there anything funny happened, and you can store all that information on there. To get back later. So you can make a chart and be able to see everything that happened with that battery, whether you've used it.
This is humorous to me because this technology isn't new all the way around. What brand do you use?
What do you mean?
Do you use?
I just want to say he just called me a nerd.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with
And what's wrong with that?
I just want to be clear. Like if anybody was wondering, did he just call me nerd? Yes, he did.
That's right. I did call you a nerd, and last time I watched, I saw most nerds can make it rain.
Yeah, that's it. No doubt.
Getting that nerd money. I'm a nerd for a reason, and guess what kind of job I have?
I've retired my propeller hat, though. I just want to let you know.
That's all I'm saying. It's a
I'm old enough now to not wear the propeller hat anymore, so
I've graduated.
I don't need it.
The beanie.
I graduated from just a straight old bald head.
That's right.
So, what is the brand of your charger? Do you remember?
Mine?
No, Jay's.
The FMA charger?
FMA charger, right.
Yeah.
And many years ago, FMA came out with a little quarter-size button that you that you put on the battery itself, and then you just laid that on a little, like your wireless charger, and it would send all that information to your phone.
Yeah, it was a little RF chip.
Yeah,
kind of like the kind that you have.
Now they have it all incorporated into the actual chargers.
Right.
So you and I use the labs, right? The Cell Pro 4. Their newer technology for the Cell Pro 8s have that information. So when you plug the battery in, you can name the battery. It'll when you plug it in, it'll say, "Oh, this is battery number 1," and it'll keep all that information.
Yeah, and plus they also had a little cable as well that you could plug into the charger, so you could plug into your computer, so that you can keep a spreadsheet of the batteries and monitor all your stuff. They're just making it a lot easier. The part like I said, that I have a problem with is just that that stuff's really cool, but the way we charge the batteries and we do stuff, we take a generator out with us. We bring our, chargers, charging them up quick, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We're not going to go from, get the smart technology, get a charger that only charges 2 batteries. We're not going to degrade to get this upgrade. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying unless they come out with something, where you can do parallel charging and then it can still keep track of that stuff, that'd be great. But because they don't have a parallel charger,
I will tell you also that particular charger from Spektrum that does the 2 batteries is not a 24-volt charger. Just FYI.
Oh, okay. Did not know that.
We know that the hard way because Tony plugged his in. And
Oh yeah,
I know that the hard way.
I remember that story. That was that smoke and suit.
Tony walked over the big battery charger box there. It's all 24 volt. He said, "Hey, does this thing? Can I plug this in? Yeah, right there in that port. Zap." Because it's only a 12-volt charger, so you gotta make sure whatever
the input voltage it doesn't go to 24 volts.
Correct. And
yeah,
my system sits at 24 all the time. So I mean, even the USB cable, the USB port is 24 volts. So it'll change it to that 5 amps or whatever. But
I just want to add further to my defense that just because I'm curious and ask a lot of questions.
Go ahead.
Never mind.
Oh. Yeah, he's still. I don't know. You should be proud to be a nerd. We would all be.
That's
proud.
right. Where would pride, dude?
I'm just playing. It's all playing.
It's a compliment in our social circle.
Okay, just the 3 of us though. Outside of this, it's totally not.
We won't tell anybody.
No. Outside of this, we bring it to the comedy club. Yeah, I mean, this is all good stuff right there.
The page is gonna blow up now.
We could probably just give it to Ozzy Man. He'd do something with it.
There you go. Exactly. Been on those videos all week. Thanks a lot. So anyway, the Spektrum technology now, kind of has caught up to a lot of the FMA chargers and the smart chargers that have come out that can actually maintain all that information. And they're just making it easier. The new Spektrum iX20, it actually can read all of that information right out of the box. And you can log it all, and you can take it.
Are you saying that? You're talking about specific receivers though that would transmit that telemetry, right?
Right. There's certain ones that can do it.
Right. I mean, because you can't do it with any of the old Spektrum stuff, right? You can't do it with all the old Spektrum ones, and there's a good number of them that do have telemetry. But if I remember right, there were specific transmitters.
Yeah, so
you had to use a module.
But we need to clarify what's telemetry and what telemetry parameters, because the smart technology batteries plugged into a smart ESC will transmit voltage information.
Right, and that transmits
a variometer, won't transmit altitude or speed. You have to buy an actual receiver that has that in it. But you can still get voltages.
Right, because they're just pasting in one of the open channels that you wouldn't have on a normal receiver like that. And then the radio says, oh, look, they get telemetry coming out this channel.
Correct.
Blah, blah, blah. And then managing that.
So the new receivers are kind of interesting because they're kind of similar to the Free Sky receivers in the sense that, all right, so it used to be you bought a 4-channel receiver. That's all you had, 4 channels.
Right.
No more, no less. Now, when you get a 4-channel receiver, you may have a 5-channel receiver, right? So that 4-channel receiver may have a 5th channel or a 6th channel, that you can actually configure and use to do something else. You can configure it on your radio to do something, So that part's kind of cool. Like one of the examples I saw was with the smart ESCs, you're able to reverse the throttle, so you can make it run if it's running clockwise, you can make it run counterclockwise.
Correct.
And then you could put it on a switch.
Sweet.
Even though it's a 4-channel receiver, you still get that 5th channel to do that with.
So I'm flying straight to the ground, flick the switch, it'll go
That's
backwards.
Right. Hover and then land on the wheels.
So you mentioned Big Mike earlier. On his big jet, that's what he does on his. It's got a reverse switch on it. So his will actually have the EDFs going one way. When you land, you shut them off, flip the switch, and they immediately spool up the other direction.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
yep.
So it's basically a reverse
short field landing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that to me is really cool that you're able to, you're getting a couple of free channels to do things like that with, which I think is really neat. Now, the biggest, this really sounds stupid, but the biggest thing I like about my receiver is no bind plug.
That's correct. It's a button.
It's a button. Mm-hmm. And, once again, since I have a Free Sky radio, like their receivers have these buttons, but it's this microscopic button that it's impossible to hold the button down, touch your radio, and then grab the battery with your foot, and then you're trying to connect it and do it all at the same time and plug it in and pull the buttons and doing everything.
Some of them are ill-conceived.
It's crazy. This one,
they were a hindsight.
It's no tiny button. It's, in fact, I was like, they were like a button. I'm looking at
it's like old man button size. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's old man. I'm looking at the case and I'm like, I don't see a button on the case. I have to poke something in and press it or something. And all of a sudden I'm like squeezing it and I hear a click. And I go, what? Oh, hey, the whole side here. This little indentation. This whole thing's a button. Click. Press it with my big old gorilla finger. Click. Ding. It goes into,
Jay, that
mode.
You said that now makes me think we could probably 3D print some stuff that would fit on our current receivers where we have to press the button that's way the heck in there to do that same idea.
Yeah. How many times do you have to rebind your airplane, though?
Not very often, but I mean, then it would be like a clip-on thing you just stick on there and then
so. All right. Well, there you go. See, that nerd stuff is coming out already.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I knew it was going to just fall out any second.
I'm the idea,
That's right, man. Just making it happen.
Make it rain.
That's it.
That's funny. Well, the bind, that's the reason, one of the reasons that you're getting an extra port there, Jay, is because if you remember all the old Spektrum from way back when we had the 6300s or whatever.
Right, they'd eat up that one bind.
Eat up because you have a bind port. And so you'd have to put the plug in, and then you really couldn't use that plug for anything but binding. Well, on some of the later on, they just said, some of the bigger receivers, they were like, oh, well, we can, if you jumper it like a bind plug, we'll use it as a bind plug. But if you plug 3 wires in it instead of 2, we can actually use it as another channel. So I have actually I think an 8100 maybe, or 8250 or whatever it was that they came out where you could use actually the bind plug as another port if you wanted to use it for something.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I'm pretty sure my FR Sky's been doing that for a while too.
Probably so. But I'm just saying, once again, Spectrum's catching up with that. And so, and then now they don't even need it because they've actually just installed a button on the side of the receiver. Some of the bigger ones, they just have a little button that you push, and it binds automatically.
Yeah, that to me was, I was like, oh, why did they do this 10 years ago?
Now here's the interesting thing too, because what is the number one rule we always tell new pilots? That what is the first rule to learn is the sequence of which you turn your radios on. You turn your radio on, plug in your airplane.
Plug in your airplane. Yeah.
And do your testing. In this new systems, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you plug your airplane in or turn your radio on first. Doesn't matter. Now, we do this because we have old systems, and that's a safety function for us learning the hard way when your airplane takes off to the parking lot because you plugged it in before you turn your radio on. But the new technology systems that Spektrum has come out, that new receiver that you have, has a model match and a DSMX. And DSMX will not connect until it sees that it has a DSMX
connection.
So the way that you can test some of your, because now that I think yours came with a failsafe too, right? Which is the new. Some of the receivers come with that, but this one you can actually change. Some of them are just either the last known input or they can go to a neutral input. And the way you test that is to plug the airplane in, move the sticks one way, turn the radio off. And then it'll go click and go right back to the failsafe. And then when you turn it back on, then I know, right? Then when you turn it back on, make sure your prop is off, though. I know we're saying it doesn't matter, but still take.
Jake, can you put a little safety thing there? Safety.
Yeah,
safety. Okay, I could do that.
You take the prop off, but when you're testing it like that, but it's the newest technology where it really doesn't matter. Although I would caution you that unless you have a specific, that specific receiver for the newest ones, I still wouldn't do it. It's
So there's
hard
some unintended consequences that could occur here, right?
What's that?
So you get new people using the new gear with these safety,
Correct.
with all this kind of cool stuff that goes on, and then a guy says, "Oh, I'm going to get this older radio," and then he gets it, and he didn't have the right, procedures in place to manage that new thing. He's like, turns it on, one. I was like, "Ow," I hurt myself.
Right.
It's like, back around, 2020.
God, 6.
2018 actually.
Whatever, just saying, back in the day,
right.
we used to cut our hands every time we turned the thing on.
Well, I mean, think about it. He's old enough to miss my finger. Back in the day, we used to have to turn our radios in too. I mean, we could only have 2 or 3 people flying.
Oh, I remember that.
I had a 72 megahertz radio. I had to go stick it on the stand.
I mean,
was my
we're talking about real pirates here who would take the 72 megahertz crystal and swap them out. That's serious pirate stuff right there.
I saw many guys get shot down because somebody walked on the thing and flipped their radio on, and now everybody's flying their airplane.
I hate Billy. Click.
I don't know if it was vindictive. I didn't ever hear anybody say, "Yeah, watch this,"
Here, hold my beer.
Right.
Isn't that where that started? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's still amazing. So, some of these receivers that are coming out, the newer ones, they have the ASX3 built in. They have the fail safes built in. They've got the new, whatever that technology. It's what do they call it? The training technology.
You're talking about gyros?
No, it's the one where it writes itself. I think they call it it's on the newer E-flight airplanes. The
AS3X is what I remember.
Yeah, that's the system that causes it.
Yeah, but it's like a panic button or something.
Yeah. It's like a I can't even remember. But anyway, it's a system that you can turn on, and it's got 3 modes. One's a beginner mode that only allows the airplane to do certain things. Then you can go to the expert mode where you can actually fly inverted.
That's the CRS stuff, right?
Yeah, it's
can't remember stuff.
SAFE. That's what it's called, SAFE. SAFE. So it's a safe technology, and it basically it runs the airplane, but it's built into the receiver as well. So, so they're really coming along, but it's to the point now where I'm kind of like Jay. I have my airplanes that I haven't really gotten anything new where I've used brand spanking new technology or had a need for it. I'm not crashing airplanes at the same rate that I was when I first started, right? So I don't have to go out and buy new equipment because I just burned it all up.
It's almost too hard to do it these days. I mean, even with new gear, because of safe, because of other stuff. I mean, you can almost land those planes without any kind of input.
No, almost.
I mean, we flew my fun racer that way.
Yeah.
Remember, we put that lemon receiver in it, and then it was like, okay, hands off, and then just watch that thing just sort of float to the ground, nice and level.
Flew right to the ground and kept it going. So
crazy.
And and it's a good technology because I think it's going to bring more people to the hobby. But at the same time, I think a little bit. It's like being an airline guy, right? I mean, we have so many new. So much new technology available in the real pilot world that I think some of those old, stick and rudder skills kind of went away. And not that, guys won't learn, but it's just, it's kind of like you had to learn that how many people can drive a stick shift in today's world, right? I mean, if you went to a dealership to buy a new car, could you even find one with a manual transmission?
I think you have to order one.
Yeah, I think so too.
Special order,
and it costs more money.
Right. Well, because you have to special order it. Now, I'm not saying that you couldn't buy, my kid's car, his has paddle shifters and a bunch of other stuff. You can put it in a manual and kind of do that thing, but you're still not putting a clutch, pulling a lever, that kind of thing. It's still automatic, where you just click the buttons. But
I mean, the technology that comes into Tesla these days is going to be more and more the norm as time goes by, right?
And I think you're right. They're already getting, what is it, the auto track or auto cruise or whatever it is, where you're supposed to be able to.
Yeah, I've driven one of those cars. It's very cool.
Yeah, where it kind of senses where you are, slows down with the car in front of you. So I think if our our hobby goes that direction, I think it just allows more and more people to get in. So I'm happy with that. But
we can get it down to 3 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. 3 years and up, right, on the side of the boat.
I mean, because here's Bobby trying to crash the plane like any 3-year-old would, right? It's like, sorry, dude, you got safe technology, you can't do it.
Yeah,
too bad.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's
I'm
awesome.
sorry, Dave. I can't allow you to do that.
Yeah.
Well,
only people who are 40 and older will know what that reference was.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry.
I don't know that. Well, our time is kind of growing short. We're going to have to go here in a second, but I will tell you that I was on the eFlight website the other day looking at Real Flight 9. I think it's 9 now, 9.5 maybe.
Wow.
It is amazing. eFlight has pretty much now added all of their airplanes, all of the little micros. I mean, they're starting to add more and more and more of the airplanes to the real flight simulators. So if you are interested, it looks like it's pretty much you can get the airplane, fly the airplane on the simulator, go out and buy the airplane, and it's truly amazing. And the amount of people that are modifying the airplanes that are currently there is truly amazing as well. So. And now,
well, it's coming to a point too, just like in our 3D printer world, where anybody can really design a part because you can use a tool like Tinkercad.
Correct.
It's coming that way with planes too. There's plenty of software out there where you can, do real-time design.
Right.
Figure, it won't be super, specific or whatever, but you can still do real-time design. It's like, yeah, this is a rock with wings. It'll fly. You just need to put a big enough motor on the front. And I can prove that out by putting in this design program and find out.
Right.
So, here we go.
Well, it's I think that's the mother of all invention, right? I mean, you give somebody an idea and you just see what falls out. And everybody that's kind of getting this new technology, they're going to come up with even better ways to do things.
Sure.
I think it's just going to be one of those amazing futures
my only beef with it is, I've already invested X amount of dollars into the old technology, and then it's like,
who's going to buy it?
Well, not just that. It's also when do I jump in and change out and get a new receiver or get a new radio or get change my batteries over.
I think that that's just like anything. When you see new technology come along, you typically trade it out as a replacement to the stuff that you're currently using as it dies, and that's what you typically do, and so in some cases it might force you to have a painful moment of spending some extra money to get gear to support what you have, but I'm going to drive most of the stuff I have till it's absolute death. Right.
Ooh, which brings good segue.
Okay.
So one of the problems I was having, like I told you before, was that eFlight speed controller, I don't have the cable to change it so I can go in there because it's not working for the radio. I can't change anything through the radio. Something is not working, but you can get a cable and the software to go in there and change it. Problem is, it happens to be the first version of it, right? So now they have version 2 of that 45 amp ESC, but they don't make the cable or sell the software anymore off of eFlight. It's discontinued.
Yeah, you got to change out your escape or ESC. Sorry.
Drink. And so anyway, it's just one of those things. It baffles because the thing's brand new,
right?
But because it has this problem, not that I can't use it, it still works. It's just that in this configuration,
firmware to version 2, though, right? I thought
what's
that was
that?
the point. You can upgrade it to the firmware to version 2.
Not without the cable and the software.
Not without the cable. You can't get the cable. They don't sell it anymore.
They sell a box. It's a programming box.
It doesn't work.
He's saying it doesn't have any more. As soon as they went to version 2, they stopped selling and making that other thing. So unless you can find it on the aftermarket or if somebody that has it,
or at some old store or something.
Unless somebody wants to tell us we're wrong and call us at 830-444-4943 and tell us.
Yeah, that would be good.
Not right.
Because I don't know if that's right or not.
I mean, because Jay is getting older, and it's possible he's forgetting stuff.
That's true.
I know I'm getting older, so that's for sure.
Yeah, I forgot to put my pants on. So,
that's why he didn't want to get up and show you the wing earlier.
He didn't want to get out with us.
I'm glad he didn't. Yeah,
who took my
Jay.
pants?
I really appreciate it. This is a family-friendly show, and
we're trying to keep it.
That would not be.
That's funny. Well, if you, I guess if you're out there in podcast land and you're familiar with the cable, or you have one, or you'd like to sell one to Jay, please get
for $100, $100 million.
Exactly. So, oh my gosh, where did this hour go? We were talking, and now it's like my timer.
It's gone.
I know. I'm just like, holy smokes. Well, the good news is the weather's getting warmer here. The weather's getting better there. I think we'll be out flying a little bit more. I've got a couple of calls already, from the guys going, "Hey man, get out to the field. The weather's great." And I think my health is to the point where I'm able to get out there. I'm kind of organized a little bit better now as well, and so I'm trying to get my stuff and start kind of hit it out there. So hopefully we'll get out there and get some flying done, and you can do some more research on the.
I'm going to take a second here to talk about your new place a little bit. And if it was me and I was building that house, I'd be like, "Yeah, you guys done with the hobby room yet? Because I'd like to start moving stuff in there right now."
Yeah, actually, I know.
Can we change the priorities around, like the kitchen, just do last, please? And then we.
Well, that part of
wait.
the house is totally separate.
Can Arlie hear me?
No, she can't.
I don't want to. If she heard me, yeah.
She didn't hear you.
Whew.
But that part, yeah, actually, that's true. That part of the shop and the garages are separate from the other house. So everybody asked me, "Why didn't you finish those first?" And I'm like, well, it's all under one permit, so you kind of have to do everything together. So,
yeah.
But we're pushing really hard to get into it by July. So things are moving along.
Well, good.
So
It's good.
I'll keep everybody updated. So I know, and if you've been watching our YouTube channel, if you haven't been watching, go over to the YouTube channel. But if you have been watching our YouTube channel, you'll see that I've been on vacation, so I've had a little bit of a growth kind of
changes.
You become evil Mike.
trying to catch up with Jay.
$100 million.
Yeah, once again, I don't think a lot of people will get that. From the 60s and 70s, you can always tell an evil person because they wore a goatee. So, hence, evil Mike.
Yes, but if they're younger, they won't get it. So hopefully our audience would get the reference of the evil Mike. All right, guys. Well, we hope you all have a great week. And from Arizona, I'm Michael.
From the hills of Texas, I'm Jay.
And from Texas, I'm AK Mike. That's a different way to sign it off.
It was. I know. We could sign off the regular way. I'm Michael from Arizona.
Yeah, I'm Jay, man. Hurry up, get my channel.
Anyway, well, it's been a fun time, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.